right. Thank you everybody for joining our session today. My name is Neeraj Kumar, and I am a lead cloud architect. I'm also an MCT, Microsoft certified trainer. We have been conducting this Azure Talk. Azure Talk is a regular bi-weekly session where we cover different topics on Azure. And as a part of the initiative, what we have decided to divide our talk into two parts, one for beginner series and one for advanced series. So in beginner series, we have conducted 5 sessions till now, and week before we have conducted session number 5. So in case if you missed any of our sessions, please feel free to refer those sessions onto our YouTube channel, which is youtube.com/c/AzureTalk. Plus, we also have our own Azure Talk community group. So in case if you have any questions, anything, you can join our Azure Talk Telegram group. So you need a Telegram, chat application, and then you can join the Telegram group. The URL to join that is t.me/Azure Talk, and we also have our own Azure DevOps group. So you can join this group, post your questions, and you can receive answers to your questions. So as I said, this is a beginner series. In past, we have conducted more than 42 sessions. In fact, for the last 1 year, we have been doing this for our Azure community. So you can refer all our recording sessions onto YouTube channel. And today I'm joined by Lalit Rawat, who is also an MCT, Microsoft certified trainer. He was awarded Azure Master of the Month for 2 consecutive months from India region from Microsoft. And he has volunteered to, in fact, he's the one who is taking the lead in, doing beginner series for Azure. And today we are going to talk about storage account. So in fact, this is the second session for storage account. This is a 6th session overall, but this is the second session for Azure storage account. So we have covered basic level of Azure storage in our previous sessions. So if you didn't join our earlier session, please refer those sessions onto our YouTube channel. So today we are going to talk about Azure storage account and especially general purpose storage account. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about different types of storage options that you have available under a general purpose storage account. Like we'll talk about Blob storage account. We'll talk about file storage account. We'll also talk about queue and table. We'll touch upon on those. Then we will get into demo. In the demo sections, we'll do the entire demo from storage account creation to blob storage account manipulation, file storage, and also how to use Storage Explorer. The Storage Explorer from Microsoft is a tool using which you can manipulate Azure Blob storage or general purpose storage account. You can manipulate that. And in fact, 4 days back, last week, Microsoft has included Storage Explorer as a part of portal itself. You don't have to install it as a standalone tool. So we'll also look into those demos, and we'll go further deeper into file storage, and Lalit will cover on the use cases of blob storage and file storage, where you would use blob and where you will use file storage. And we'll try to keep it more hands-on. So we will cover theory slightly faster and try to spend more time on the console onto the Azure portal, so that we can see how things are being done or how things are in action when we go and do it on the portal. So with that, for housekeeping purpose, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and mute the audience so that we maintain a good quality of recording. And in case if you have any questions, please feel free to raise your hand, and you can type the question in the chat also, and we'll be able to answer your questions in the chat. And in case you need to speak up, you can type in the chat, and we will unmute yourself. So with that, yeah, I will hand it over to Lalit. Go ahead and mute yourself, Lalit.
Thank you, Neeraj, for your introduction, and thank you so much, all of you, to join the guys who has joined early and who joined the sessions now on the time. Thank you so much for joining the session. So, as this is the beginner series of session 6, so in the first series we have covered up a lot more on the sessions of VMs and that also thing. So now we are going into the depth one by one. So my first session on the storage would be beginner series of storage accounts with 5. Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. Can you just, make sure that, can you click on the docking station on the top so that we don't see the bar sharing, the icon on the horizon? Yep.
Right. Okay. So we have covered almost 6 sessions. So last one would be in a storage account. So we have covered a lot more things on the storage account, that what kind of the storage account we have, and how we can utilize this and all. So now we are going in the deeper, and we will be exploring much into the storage account on this part. So going to the next slide. So basically today's content would be on Azure storage accounts, and we will be covering 2 storage account types. It is a 4 types, but today the content would be we will be covering for 2: blob storage account and the file storage account, and we will understand what are the common scenarios we can utilize those storage account, and then we'll go on demo with the Azure Storage Explorer, and then we'll create a storage account, blob storage account, and we'll go on their properties and understand how we can utilize much, and how we can integrate with our production environment and the UAT or the testing, or with the APIs or the files or the SQL databases for storing the data and all. So let me just start this, move to the next slide. So basically it's a storage account type, and we have already covered a lot more in the details from my previous session. So let me just give you an overview. As we have a storage account, and storage accounts are 4 types. One is the blob storage account, Azure file storage account, and then you have a table storage account and the queue storage accounts. So Azure blob storage account are used to have an unstructured data, where you will have to keep your files like text files, JPG, videos and other in a container. So in a container. And then file storage will be used how you're using in your on-premises. The files and everything would be utilized as your on-premises as a file server. Like if you do a double backslash and then the network path and then slash folder, the similar way you will be utilizing that Azure file storage. And this is the cloud-based solutions. We'll go and deeper in both 2 parts. And the tables storage would be used for structured data. If you have a SQL databases, or if you have a non-SQL or Oracle or Cosmos DBs, it will have a structured data, and it will store in the form of tables, those whatever the data was there. And the queues is used only for messaging, and there is no relations between tables and the queues. So don't get confused. We'll go on deeper into my next sessions on tables and the queues, and understand the scenarios, how they are important, and what is their mechanism to work on. So this is a sample of Azure storage account. So if you can see that I have an storage account here. I have a storage account here, and it's a 4 types, which I have shown into the diagram. So this is just a basic overview, and the details will be there in my last session. So this is overall how we can utilize. So let me just move to the next slide on this part. And now we'll be talking about the blob storage account and their common uses. So what is a blob storage account? How we can utilize of the blob storage account? So basically, blob storage account is the services where you'll have your unstructured data. Unstructured data in the sense like you'll have your pictures, you will have your movies, You'll have your VSD, VMs, VSD, and where they are going to be stored. They will be going to store in the blob. So don't get confused over here. I'll show you that in the container, because when you create a storage account and click on the blob, you generally don't see any option to keep the data. And after that, you're going and creating a container, and then inside that you'll have a blobs. That is actually a blob storage where these VSD, JPGs and ABI files are getting stored. So that are, that get more elaborated and into the demo sessions. So you'll have a VSD files which you are going and keeping. You have an Azure for your JPG file, and you will have an ABI. Let's say I have a new one storage account called AzureTalk, and I have logged in from my account from my ID, how XYZ at the rate of Microsoft.com or Outlook.com. So where I just created one AzureTalk storage account, and in that I have created one container, and that container I have 3 files, which is VSD, pictures, and the movies. So when you say VSD will go on the VSD part, it will be remain as a VSD, but pictures will be always remain as a .jpg file,
Yes.
and the movies would be an ABI. Yes, yes.
So Lalit, so you're saying this is the hierarchy of our storage, right? So you have
Right.
top level is your storage account. We create a storage account. Then a storage account can contain multiple containers. So containers is more like folders in a real world, right? So you have folders. So you have one storage account. Under that you can create multiple containers, and inside each container is what you store as a file. So those file are called blobs, right? Those blob could be a VHD file if it is a general purpose storage account, if I'm not mistaken. Those could be a JPEG file, if it is a picture, or those could be an AVI file, anything which is unstructured data, media file or document file, or any installation MSI package, right?
Yes, Neil.
Okay, so the hierarchy is storage account. Under storage account, you have multiple containers, and then within the containers, you have multiple blobs, and blobs are actually individual files, and we are technically calling it a blob.
Right.
All right.
Basically it's a terms of of Azure system, which we called as a blob. But if you just compare from the on-premises environment, from the how in a disk we will create a volume, and inside we'll create a multiple folders, it just equally matched to the blobs and the files and the tables and the queues. Because in on-premises we have our own structure of their application, and Azure Microsoft has created the structure to keep our files to be get access faster.
Got it. All right.
Right. Yeah. So let me just get into the common uses, which generally scenarios which we have into the blob storage. Basically, as you can see, Facebook, Microsoft, or a bigger site, you can see the Netflix and all. They have a lot of movies, files, and streaming online the videos, and that is very faster. So basically, these cloud storage are being used, serving those purpose to keep their files in the video format or the audio format, and then they will be using some mechanism to call from the APIs and get access to the over the websites, and we are getting very fast responses. They will be using some mechanism in that. I don't want to go into the deeper because the session for the storage account, so they will be using some. Apart from that, we can use this blob storage account to keep the backup and dash the recovery, archiving the files, data, keeping the text files, JPG files, or our any databases. If we are taking a manually backup, that we can keep it. If we need to analysis some data which is unstructured data, we just keep some 3 terabyte data. Or let's say if there is ABC is a financial organization, or BCD is in some content driven organization where the partners or users are using their content very frequently, but they have got all the details, and now they wanted to analyze how many users are getting connecting from my iPhone, from the Android, or from the computer, from the Apple computer, from the devices, from different devices, or the emails. So basically they just wanted to do an analytics and analyze those data. That is also can be happen if you can keep the data into the on-premises and host the services on Azure and getting connecting through the API and get it analysis. Those data can be possible. That is good scenarios in the corporate, which is nowadays it is utilizing. And you can if you have couple of services which the files which you wanted to give you the access to your clients or over the things, then you can use your SES key, and then you can give the access, distributed access, and they can access through the API or through over an Internet Explorer and all. So basically these are the 4 or 5 scenarios, and apart from that is couple more other scenarios, because as you can see that storage account and the blob storage can be keep you the more data to be stored into the blobs and everything. So these are the scenarios which I have covered, and let me just move to the next slide. And now we'll be talking about the container. So basically when you just create a storage account, the first blob services would be there. In the blob services, once you create a container, there are access types of 3 types. So this is the container where you are just getting and keeping your data there, and then you have to provide the name over here, my blob storage account, whatever the container name, and that you are going to keep your unstructured data or whatever the files you wanted to keep it over there. So basically that is there. Apart from that, you have an access types of policies. If you give the private policies, it means within the organization or within the services you are getting and connecting to your container or your blob storage account can be accessed privately. It does not have access for your internet at all.
Yeah, so I think so this is like this defines in terms of how public will access your data. So for example, if you're running a website and you're storing the website pictures, right? So pictures in the blob storage account inside a container. So you can decide on to give the permission. So you have private, which means if it is confidential document, if it is a confidential image, people will not be able to access it. So that will not be accessible at all. You need the storage access key or storage account key to access this. That's a private. A blob is where you allow the users to have access to only, and it's anonymous access basically, by the way, right? To the actual blob which is stored inside the container. But they will not be able to enumerate containers as such. How many blobs are there? They will not have that permission, but to individual blob. Whereas container, if you give the permission, then they can enumerate container and blob inside that too. So these are the 3 access type that you have basically. So if you want to give permission to everybody to read your pictures, or you want to load those pictures, and you want your users, public users, to access it, you can give blob or container permission. But if you don't want, then you can keep it private.
Right. So very well explained, Neeraj, on the containers security prospects, and these are the basically policies which we can apply. Before we go to the blob storage account and then its types of blob, abandoned blob, and page blob, let me just open my. So you are able to view, right? My MS Paint. Yes.
Yes.
So I'm really sorry to put these things into the PPT because I didn't get much time on this. So basically, before we are going into the page blob, content blob, and the blob, there is lot of confusion that to understand this terminology. So we understand the terminology in such a ways that storage account is equal to my hard drive, and blob storage, file storage, and queue storage, table storage. This is my volumes A, B, C, D, E, and then inside that I have created few folders, which is SQL and others, and videos files. So which is you can compare with the VSD Azure and this one. And this has own structure. When we install the SQL databases, we will get .mdf file or for backup .bkb files and all. They have their application has their own structure in this. But in Azure, when you just store some files into storage account or especially into the blob, it will get again segregated in the backend, which is comes as a blob, page blob, appended blob, and the blob. So basically, what is page blob? Page blob only support to 8 terabyte only for your VSD files here, only for your this one, nothing much. So page blob mainly used for to keep the VSD files. It has the permissions for read and write as well,
So
because the VS, yes,
Lalit, so I think the page blob has two portions, right? One
right.
is in page blob we store the VHD. So today I think, if I'm not mistaken, the maximum size is 5 tera, 4.75 terabyte, or 4 terabyte, right? 4096.
I,
For
neither just increased to 8 terabyte now.
Yeah, so I'm coming to 8 terabytes. So 8 terabyte size is when you're storing not it as a VHD, but there is a way where you can store your binary files, text file in page blob also. So for those scenario, you can use up to 8 terabyte. But if it is a VHD, the size limit even today is 4 terabyte, which is 4096 gigabyte.
Right. So this is about of your page blob. The next one is the appended blob. Appended blob is equal to the operations. Operations like whatever the read and write operations are happening into the storage account or in your VMs files or the VSD. It will keep those storing in your appended blob in the backend. So it will create a smaller block of 104 KB. I didn't remember exactly, but this is only for use for operations block, read and write operations. But when it comes as a blob and appended block, is just used as an, we can use it as a comparison between appended block and blob. Is just use a blob created a small blocks in that. But when it comes into the blob, it is a binary data in the text file format, which is keeping those data. So if you store some JPG or if you store some VSD files, so it will in the backend, it is those files would be segregated into smaller blobs and the blocks, and those files will be very fast accessible. So the mechanism is defined in such a way for the storage account. Neeraj, do you want to add something in this?
No, I think you're good. Append blob is used, when you're adding it, it's like a log file. Let's say you have a log file, right? So you keep adding the logs, so the log will get appended at the end. So that's where probably you will use append blob. And page blob, we explained. Page blob main uses is store VHD because it's a smaller block size. 512 bytes is the smaller block size. That's what it uses. And sorry, not block size, page size. Whereas blob is for your regular files, JPEG, AVI, movies file, anything installer file is where you will use the blob. And page blob has if you're using as a VHD, it has 4 TB limit, maximum size of that. And if you're using, you can also store your binary file into as a page blob format, but that will be, for that you need to do it programmatically. In that case, 8 TB is the limit. So that's what.
Right. Let me just
We covered, yeah. I think we covered it well. We can move on to the next.
Right. So here, just I just write it as in for Blob Blob is in 4.7 terabyte, can be managed individually, and then as appendant block nearest is also those. So writing the data in the VMs or the logs, and then page block, which is mainly used for VSD files, which is randomly you can access. So let me just move to the next slide, which is our file storage. So a file storage basically, as I have in first slide I have mentioned, this been used as in your files here, how you are utilizing on premises. The similar way it used in Azure as well. So it's fully managed by your Azure cloud services. It is just giving you the double back slash and the network path and slash AzureTalk folder, and whatever the data would be kept and give you the access, you will be utilizing there in the on premises. But in the files there you don't have any NTFS permissions to be integrated for now. So when you create a directory, it can be accessible for everyone if they have a authorized to do so, or if you wanted to give the access or given the, so each and everyone can go to another folder. So for each department can have a separate storage account, which is up to 5 terabyte, and it works on SMB 3.0 protocol, and the port number would be 445. So whenever you wanted to give an access, to make sure that 445 port is listening, and you will be able to access. So there are a few commands which we are going to run, and that are executed in this part and as a part of demo.
Yeah. So if I can add on to top of this, so file storage, think of this guys as NFS as a service. In the real world, you will have network file share, right, on-prem. So if you had to really set up an NFS in Azure, what you would do, you will set up a VM, and then on top of VM you will create, or you will install the file server role, and then use that, consume that. Whereas now what Microsoft has done is Microsoft offering this platform as a service offering, or NFS as a service offering, wherein the underlying infrastructure is provided, managed and provided by Microsoft, and you just consume it, and the way you consume it, again, it will be over internet. The same way you will get an UNC path, universal naming convention path, and using that whack and the UNC fully qualified domain name of the Microsoft file storage location, and then you have shares. So the way it is organized is you have storage accounts. On the left side you see a storage account. Then within the storage account, you have file storage, and then within the file storage, you will create multiple shares. So shares are there before even files, right? And once you have created the shares, that's where you will create the files inside that. And in order to access that, you need, since it is an SMB protocol, it uses SMB 3.0 protocol, you need port 445, because SMB works on port number 445. So please make sure, if you're trying to access this file share from your corporate environment, make sure that 445 port is open. Most of the time it is blocked. Generally only port 80 and 443 are open. So just make sure that port number 445 is open. All right, I think we can move on to the next slide.
Sure, yes. And next one is a demo, so just 2 minutes I'll spend here. And the common scenarios for this file storage, like if we wanted to migrate our own existing data from on premises, or we have some applications which are frequently accessing as shared, we just keep some code or some data into the files here, then all over the world you can provide the access to your one file server, and you can keep it over there, and one file even for 5 terabyte you can add it to the file server. And the second one is, if you wanted to have and share data across your on-premises in the cloud, that is also possible. And you can integrate your modern applications with the Azure file storage and get access for files, pictures, and a couple of others, whatever the data you put in this. And it is already another scenario which is highly hosted in Azure, and you can use for your high availability workload data, because in the storage account now there is a file server. There's a feature, so you can take in snapshots of your files and the data, so your data will be backed up. So there is it's a high availability for you. So if something is got deleted, you can get it restored from the snapshot.
Yeah. All right. Cool. So I think next is demo. So what we're going to do is we'll go ahead and spend 5 minutes taking questions and answers. So I have unmuted the audience. You guys, if you have any questions, you have to unmute yourself at your end, and then you can go ahead and ask the questions if you have any. But first you have to unmute yourself.
Till that time, I'm just creating a VM and getting ready my lab.
Okay. So any questions? No questions? Hello?
Hi, this is Kundan here. Can you hear me?
Yes. Go ahead with your question, please.
Yeah. So I just wanted to know, like, what would be the upload limit in my storage account? Suppose I have some 5 to 6 TB of data. So how long does it take to just upload it? Is there any bandwidth limit? Suppose if I have 100 Mbps of speed as well. So is it gonna take a day of time or something like that? If you can suggest on this storage.
Sure. So there are, online website which can help you calculate the upload time. So it's a very simple calculation, right? So it depends on how much data you want to upload, divided by the bandwidth that you have available, and that per second. And remember, the bandwidth that you have, it's megabits, not megabytes. So you have to do that calculation. So there are websites which can help you with that assessment. How much is your bandwidth? So it will be total data that you want to upload, divided by the bandwidth that you have available, and that will tell you how much seconds you would require. And again, it's megabits. So you convert your data into bits, or let's say you have, for simplicity's sake, it's 80 megabits. So that means 10 megabytes per second. So you do that with calculations. So every second you will have 10 megabytes. That means in 60 seconds, let's say, you can upload 600 megabits, right? So based on that you can do your calculation. So 600 megabits is half gig, right? So per minute half gig you're looking at, and that means 60 minutes you're looking at around 30 gig. So 1 hour 30 gig, 24 hours 720 gig. So based on that you can do the calculation.
Okay, got it. Thanks. And okay, fine. Thank you so much.
Okay, all right, good. Any other questions?
Hi Neeraj, my name is Deshkant.
Hey Deshkant.
Yeah, so I had an issue before, like I had a resource group with multiple VMs and multiple storage accounts, and I'm trying to find which VM, like which storage account is related to the which VM, and I don't find it, like where I could exactly see which storage account is connected to the particular VM.
So you'll have to go to the VM property, and under the disk, if you go under the disk, it will show you that. So any VM that you have, it has disk property. So click on the VM, go to disk property, and if you expand on the disk, it will tell you which storage account it is stored in.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, this is Siddharth here. I have a quick question.
Yes, Siddharth.
Virtual machine would come under what kind of storage?
There are two kind of storage account. I think last week covered general purpose storage account and blob storage account. So it will come under general purpose storage account, and even within general purpose storage account, we have blob storage. It will come under the blob storage, and within blob storage also, there are different categories which we'll cover later. You have premium, you have standard, you have managed, you have unmanaged, but it will come under the general purpose storage account, blob storage.
Okay, thank you.
So Arun, you have question about version 1, version 2. We covered that in our previous session. So I will send you the link. You can refer that session. And
Yeah.
all right, any other questions?
Hello, Neeraj, this is Sai Kiran.
Hey Sai Kiran, tell me. Hey.
Storage account is changed to one VM to another VM. Resources groups also possible.
What do you mean by change? So storage account is not dedicated to VM account. You can, store multiple VMs, VHD inside single storage account. So
Okay.
you can have one shared storage account, and there you can store VM for, for multiple VMs. You can store their VHDs.
Okay. Storage account is changed to one resources group to any other resources group, and subscription is also possible.
Yes, that requires migration, but yeah, that's also possible. That is.
Hello, Neeraj. I guess, Neeraj, this is Pulakesh. I guess we also need to, tell the users that if you are going with an unmanaged disk, that is where we have to choose the storage account. In case of managed disk, we don't have to choose the disk.
That's right. That's right. So the storage account we're talking about is all part of unmanaged disk. And in managed disk, by the way, managed disk is only available for VMs, for VHDs. It's not available for blob storage account. Okay, it is only for VHD. It's not available for blob. It's not available for file. It's not available for queue, and it's not available for table. It's only available for VHD, storing the VHD disk, and that's
VHD and for now I think it's preview and the for SQL databases.
okay.
I think.
Yeah. So, but anyway, so that's keep in mind. But I think we are focusing more on the storage account and those sides. So, all right. I think we'll take one more question and then we'll get into the demo. Any other last questions? All right. I'll take silences. No. So, Lalit, back to you.
Sure. I'm just I was starting an storage account demo. So basically, just we'll create a storage account quickly, and then we'll move to the blob storage and the file storage. So basically, if you wanted to create a new storage account, click on Create as Sources, or else you just go into the All Services. You'll find this tab. Click on the storage account. Click storage account, blob files and the tables. Once you done this, we'll have a storage account name is in AzureTalk, and then we'll have a storage account general purpose kind V1 and V2. And if you just select the V1, you have all the performance tiers, but when you just select the V2, this is the main difference. You'll have a cool and access tiers within one storage account. Earlier that will comes into the blob storage. Just select the version 2. And then you have to select that location of whatever it is near to your region, and then the replications would be you'll have a LRS, GRS, and RAGRS, which we have already covered in my last session, which is where RAGRS has a read access and this has a 6 copy of your data replication. And the GRS has a 6 copy and it has a read and write access. LRS within your zone, it has the 3 copy and might be keep it into the same data center. And then we'll have access, which is cool and the hot tier. Cool tier would be the data which we are accessing very not frequently, but it's an archival which you just want it for yearly once or twice. Can be put in the cool, or the data which is accessing frequently, you'll have to keep this data into the hot, and then the secure file transfer if you wanted to enable. Then if you wanted to send the files securely, that those mechanism would be enabled, and then you can use your existing resource group, or you can just create another resource group. So I'll go ahead and create a storage account. It will take another 1 or 2 minutes to get it completed. So till that time, let me just go to my VMs here. I'll download the RDP and till that time, just. So this is another new features which Microsoft included. Earlier, if you just click on the connect, it will directly download. But now, even if you wanted to take in remote from your private IP, that is also available. So if you can see, the public IP and the private IP can be done. So if you wanted to take an RDP from the private IP, you can use your public IP or the private IP and download the RDP, and then you will be able to access. So this is the new feature which Microsoft has added into this VMs part. I think storage account is created. Let's move up to the storage account. And here, I'll just go into the storage account. When you just check in the overview, as in blob storage, file, tables, and the queue, these 4 types of storage comes into the general storage purpose account and can be created automatically. So when you just go to the blob storage account, you don't see anything to be here. Like, we can't keep the data in this blob services. So basically, I was saying to get it created in a storage account, I'll say Azure for you and the public access labels which I have shown in my PPT. It's a private blob, and the container. So let me just give the anonymous access for all, and I'll just get ahead and get it created one storage account. Now my container is get created, and I just wanted to upload the data. I can upload anything, whatever I wanted to get it uploaded. Either it could be the VSD, or it could be your JPG file or VSD files or anything. For a couple of things, let me just my blob things, I'll just get it in uploading. So if you just click on the advanced, you will get the blob blob, page blob, and abundant blob. So basically, when you select the blob blob, the block size would be up to 4 MB to 100 MB, and minimum at 64 KB the block size would be available. And then if you wanted to upload the folder, you can now select the folder as well. And if already a file exists, you can overwrite the files here, right? So now I'll just click on the page blob. When you just select the page blob, see the differences. When you select the page blob size for 5.0 file must be aligned to a 512 bytes boundary. Basically, it is not getting these files, and it is giving some error because that is not kind of supporting, and it won't support for those. Basically, it should be 512 byte of boundaries. Those blocks would be there. Then only it will get it supported, right? I'll just get a change here, and if you can select an appendant block, yes, it has a read and write, it can go. But in the blob block, this is the default one. So I'll just select it here. Files again. I'll just get it uploaded. Our files is getting uploading. It is very fast, and the files is getting uploading, right? Now I have uploaded my 3 files. I just wanted to take a snapshot, or I just wanted to get in backup. I'll create a snapshot for blocks. I'll just select all the files and click on this, and I will be able to write it. Acquired lease, it means those files you wanted to have a lease ID for with any write, read, or any permissions which you wanted to release, because you just take this lease for a couple of times, or let's say for 1 year or 2 years, this you are just going to keep these files. Then when even if you delete it also, if you acquire the list, those files won't get deleted from the Microsoft end. So this is a kind of lease prospect. So even though you can break the leases if you wanted to, so that's okay, that's not a problem. But let's say if I wanted to get an access this file over internet, so this is and my URL. If I just go here and click here, I would be able to see my files over internet. As soon as getting connected to another 5 files here, if I just wanted to have in this file to be accessed, so similar kind of you can share those your blob storage and the files which is there, and you can get in connecting, or you can for your customers or the partners, if you wanted to utilize this URL based mechanism or the files and all, which I just shown, which I have completed my Azure certification on this. So this is the things which if you wanted to when you just click on those files, you'll have a undeleted snapshots of walls, you'll have a snapshot history, and the blob type would be you'll get a blob, and the size would be here. And if you wanted to edit your blobs, you can add it if you have a files. And if you wanted to give an access to particularly those files, this is just an example, the files would be much higher, or they will be in the GB or the terabytes. So you can keep it those files as well, and then you can have read, write, and other permissions, and you can download those files. So this is basically a lot more new things come up into the blobs. Even in the blobs, you can manage your access identity and access management. If you wanted to give an access for within your organization to someone, let's say I just wanted to give an access to Ashish Gupta is working with my organization, I can just give an access for this and define his role. So that we can do that. Apart from that, you can have an access policies from this blob wise or the subscription wise, that if you wanted to, someone can write the data, someone can delete the data or access the data. When you just select those permissions, read, write, delete, or if you wanted to give an engineer to his work is to delete the data the older than 3 months, you can give the delete permissions to this. And if a developer or in your organization someone admin need them to read and write on this blob, you can specify those permissions from here and get it enabled. And the properties will get in all the properties of the data, your Azure for you storage account here, this one, and then we have an lease status is unlocked, and then lease status is available, and couple more other things. So you'll have a container size and the block size, and then page blob and appendant blob. So everything will get into the properties, and all the details would be available here. Let me just move to the storage account again.
Yeah, and also quickly, if you can show the Storage Explorer, if you on the left side, if you scroll down.
Alright, 1 minute. Yeah.
Yep. What Microsoft has done is they have included. So, and again, this is still in public preview, but earlier what we used to do is we will download the Storage Explorer as a standalone tool, and we'll use that to upload, download, manipulate the storage accounts. But now you can do it on the portal itself. So if you click on the Azure for You blob containers that you have in the middle pane.
Yes.
So it will show you all those files that you have uploaded. Yeah. And it's like, it's the same interface that you would see in a um, Azure Storage Explorer, which you download standalone. It has almost all the features I have explored, but some features are missing, but probably because it's a public preview. But once it goes GA, Microsoft will include all the features of Storage Explorer, regular Storage Explorer.
Right, Neeraj. And it has almost all features. So you have an option for upload, download, and you can open those files. You can create a new files, and you can copy the URLs and all. So this is basically your container, and then you have a files here. And one option which is missing in this is called as a table. So for tables, you won't see the properties here.
Correct.
And then we have a files here, and then we have our queues, the messaging and all you can getting and writing over here. So let's just move to the files here and discuss on this part. So basically, if I don't have any files or the folders now, I'll just get started and create one files here. That the name would be in AzureTalk is in Azure for you. And quota, I wanted to have a 6 terabyte. Oops, it's not supported. The maximum it just supports for 5120 GB. It is equal to your 5 terabyte, right? Maximum 5 terabyte it is support. I just created a storage account here, and then I'll go and click and upload few files here. In the meanwhile, I'll get it connecting to the VM, and I'll show you how you can get it connecting to your storage account file server. The files has been uploaded here. You can always take a snapshot, or you can create a snapshot. So the snapshot is created for all your files. You can add a multiple directory inside the file storage account. You can upload multiple files. You can delete those files. If you click on the properties, so you get all the data and the size and the usage of this. If I just wanted to get and connect for this, I have three things. One is either I can get in connecting from the PowerShell, or you have a Windows net command which I can utilize, or if I wanted to get in connecting from my Linux machines, we can use those sudo commands and then get it connecting. So earlier this connecting to Linux machines is not available, but now it is available. I'll click on the PowerShell commands here, and I'll go to my VMs here. As is getting up yeah. I'll just click on a search bar. Sorry. I'm just getting and running this command. Right, you can see the name of my files is that file, and it is getting and connecting to my Blob storage account, and it has a 500 GB in the file system. Let's just go here on my folders and see whether it is PC. Yep, it is there. I can able to access all the files which is there. This is in one way. Another way is to once you click on computer, click on map the network drive, click on map network drive, and here what you have to do is similar. Let me just show you there. So basically, this is my double backslash and this is my storage account path here, right? I will go on my computer, click on the network drive, click on map, this is one, and that is going and connecting to the Y folder. I'll use a different credentials here, right? Getting connecting here. My username would be my storage account, AzureTalk 1, and the key would be here. This is my key. I'll show you that how you can get that key. So I'll just put here, I click on connect. Probably this is a different name in the user password. I'll just get the password here. So how I'll get that user ID and the password, I'll just show you. I'll go to access key here, and this is my username. This is in AzureTalk 1. And the password would be my primary key here. You can always access your files through access key, and I think it is not working. Okay, as it is already mapped, it is not getting mapped to the same storage account and the same files, which that error means. Okay, so how we're getting connecting from this, as I have covered and much into this, and from here you'll get your storage account name and the files, and your services would be there. And these are the basically those features which I really wanted to cover in those blob storage and the file storage. So hence you can upload the files and the properties and the quota, and then you can get it, create snapshots. So yes, I'm done with my demo part.
I think I think it was a good demo, and we covered a lot of stuff. And I think we are almost out of time. We have 1 more minute. So I do see a question from Kundan. Do we have an option now to opt for storage account in Azure Backup? I think that's more related to Azure Backup, and we'll cover that. But do post these questions in our AzureTalk Telegram group, which is t.me/AzureTalk, and we will be more than happy to answer those questions. And I will take a couple of minutes to say thank you to everybody. I think we have just 1 more minute. I want to say thank you to everybody for joining our session today. It was really nice talking to all of you, and we hope to continue this kind of sessions even in future. And I say thank you to Lalit for taking out time and putting this presentations and the demo session for us. It was really useful, and I hope audience also find it useful. So in case if you have any questions, please post those questions in our AzureTalk community group, which is https t.me/AzureTalk, and we'll more than happy to answer those questions. And also, if you want certain topics to be covered, don't hesitate to send out an email to us, which is azuretalk@cloudeasy.com, and we'll consider those topics, and we'll try to incorporate those topics in our future sessions. So once again, I want to thank you everybody for joining our session today. Keep an eye, and also if you want to receive our regular meeting invite, don't hesitate to register on our website, which is http www.cloudeasy.com. Once you register, you will receive a regular meeting invite from us. So with that, we'll conclude this session. Thank you, everybody.